All right, well, let's get started. This is Scott Grove's Consolidated Coaching. This is my buddy Isaac. And crazy, man. Like, I'm not really a big believer in religion or fate, but I feel like we've kind of been playing in the same circles for about 5 years and had cross paths a few times at like John Berghoff's events and Hal Elrod's events. And like, we're just kind of running those same circles. And then kind of everything came together with me and you and Alex, who everybody in the group is familiar with. We've got about 70 coaching clients in the group right now. About 14 of them are on live now. 20 of them will be watching live on Facebook. Some people will watch the replay. A lot of people have gotten familiar with Alex and kind of his coaching on health. So why don't you give us the, 2-minute background on Isaac, where you came from, how you got into mortgage coaching, and anything else you want to share about yourself to earn the right to tell people how to run their business.
Beautiful. I'll work on it. And Alex is here, by the way. I just didn't know that we should have him on the call. Otherwise, he'd pop in and behind me. So I started coaching in real estate when I was running a real estate team. And we were coaching anywhere from about $50 to $120 million producers there on how to build a team. And my background was in team building. I had a team of about 145 that I scaled down to 20 and did more business with 20 than I was doing with 145. And so that was kind of the magic that I brought to the real estate team. I ran it for a year with my best friend who owns that company. And we went from about 200 transactions a year to almost 300 transactions a year that year. And then we started coaching in that space. We had one loan officer who just asked to join our coaching program and sit in, and that was our preferred lender. And he ended up going from 75 million to 200 million in the next 3 years. And so what we figured out in that time was that this works really, really well for loan officers, not just realtors. And in general, they're an easier group to deal with and coach. So we started focusing more on loan officers. And over the last 5 years, I've become a preferred lender coach for other mortgage companies and for some of the top executives and teams in the country. And it just kind of fell in my lap. And I'm super honored to be involved with some great individuals.
And by the way, 3 reasons I want to have you on. One, because I really appreciate your joke when you said, when you did have that coaching company where you're coaching realtors and lenders, the lenders were the only ones that paid their bills on time. So I love that. Us lenders don't get to take pot shots at realtors too often. So that made me feel good about the lender community. That's number one. Number two, I think what we've done really well in consolidated coaching is help people get that foundational amount of revenue, just go through the grind, make the calls, build the relationships, get that momentum to get to about 10 or 15 deals a month. And I think that's what we're kind of world class at, getting people up to that level. What I think you're world class at doing is getting people to like, okay, stop looking at the call tracker, look up at the horizon, and who do you need to be and what kind of team do you need to build out if you want to go to 20, 25, 30, 40, 50. And I don't want to name drop because I don't want your clients getting a bunch of friend requests from everybody in our coaching group. But I know that you're coaching people that are doing, 40 or 50 units a month while they live overseas or work, 4 hours a day or whatever the case may be. And so, where you and I have talked about maybe defining some type of formal partnership or having you guest more often is I think your superhero power is getting people to say like, okay, what's the 5-year horizon? Who do I need to become as a leader, and who do I need to hire as a team member to really get there? So maybe we could start there. And how is it that you came to be kind of world class at that team building, hiring the right people, and growing the team? Because I know that's what you're great at.
Yeah, well, and what I'm not great at is what you do, which is get people to that level, because I've never originated a loan. In fact, I don't even have a real estate license. And so when I was running a real estate team, I wasn't doing any transactional stuff. But after a certain point, it's not about origination anymore. It's not about the ability to write a real estate contract. It's about understanding culture. It's about understanding teamwork and how the right team fits in the right way such that you continue to move forward. And there really is that tipping point around where you were talking about, around the 12 to 15 deals a month, where you don't have to do everything yourself anymore. You can start to create bandwidth for scaling. And you can either fail to delegate and you can do it all yourself and you can hit a ceiling, or you can create some margin in your time and in your income to strategically build your team And that's where it gets really exciting, because you're not then trading dollars for hours that are yours. You're trading dollars for hours that are someone else's. And if you do it in a strategic way, and if you do it in a very purposeful way, you end up really not having a ceiling on your growth. I mean, one of the people that I coach, again, we won't drop any names here, but this individual was out for several months last year and was able to grow from 200 million to 267 million. And it's not obviously because they were working more hours, because there were a few months there where they weren't able to even come in the office. And that does not happen when you are everything to the business. And so allowing yourself to strategically look forward and create what the 5-year vision is, or at least the 3-year vision, keeps you from focusing right in front of you. And if you're walking with your head down, looking at your feet, you know, you can walk okay, but if you're going through the forest, you start running at a full sprint, looking down at your feet, you're in trouble, right? So the faster you go, the more you need to look up and see what's on the horizon, so you can avoid, is there a cliff coming? Am I running right toward the tree? And you don't run head on to that thing. So looking up is really important. I had another guy that I coach who was really focused on January's business. They were saying, man, I'm worried about my numbers in January. I really need to push stuff. And they were at the point where the team was at max capacity and then some. And I talked to this person in several conversations just like this over about a 6-week period. Was, you're not building a sandcastle, you're building an empire. Well, you're building one of the two. You need to choose, right? You can build a sandcastle. Next time the tide comes in, there it goes. Or you can strategically, it takes longer to build an empire. You have to make different decisions when you're building something bigger than you would if you're building something that you're only focused on, how many deals am I going to put together for, 6 weeks from now or 2 months from now. Sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. And if you play chess or are familiar with strategy games like that, you don't always be on the offense. Sometimes a defensive move is for an offensive reason. Sometimes you might sacrifice a piece, you might do something for a bigger strategy. And that's what, when you start playing chess as a loan officer, instead of just playing checkers or just always rolling the dice, moving forward, when you start playing chess, you go, okay, I know that strategically taking 2 months and stepping back on my lead generation a little bit, keeping it going, keeping the relationships going, but doing what Tim Ferriss would call a minimum effective dose, which is where I'm strategically doing the thing I need to do, but I'm also creating room for me to recruit the right people and train them such that in 3 months, now I've got 50% more capacity. I may have a few less deals over those 2 months, but I've got 40% more deals now for the year.
But Isaac, if I give up a deal right now, then I'm going to lose all my realtor relationships, and they're going to find out that I'm a fraud, and then I'm never going to get them back. And then if I don't do everything right now and call the person back right now, then I'm never going to get another deal, Isaac. You just don't understand the mortgage industry.
I know, it's the truth, and it's sad. No, it's the belief though, right? It's this scarcity mindset versus the mindset of like, I'm good, I'm playing my game. And this also goes to positioning, which I'm talking on. I'm in a mortgage conference. I'm talking in a couple hours, running a breakout on positioning and recruiting and team building strategically. And so this goes back to mindset of, this is not the last deal you're ever going to get.
Right.
And by taking the deals that are not optimal, what you're doing is you're training people that that's your value for yourself and your time. And so many lenders that I know have built a foundation on, I'm the guy who can make the crap deals go through, or the gal. And if you're that person, that's who you are. If you're positioning yourself as that person, that's what you're going to get. And and then I had somebody else who I coach who, they're doing 300 or 400 deals a year. And they said, okay, I'm going to stop bogging down my system and my team with some of these crappy deals, because I don't even need them. I don't have time to do all the deals that are coming across my plate that are good deals. So why am I spending all my time on these ones? And so she strategically just said, we're not taking these types of deals anymore. And just let everyone know, like, this is what you should send us. This is what you should not. And a lot of people would be like, oh my gosh, if you tell them that, they're not going to send you any more deals, ever, because you got to be able to save every deal for them. You got to be able to do all their crap deals in order to get their good deals. It's just not true. You're just training people how to treat you, and you're training people what you're worth. And for most of you guys, you're working with real estate agents who you are more successful than already. And so it's weird, this paradox, this shift in the industry where the hierarchy of awesomeness in the real estate industry is like, you know, speaker, coach, trainer, person, and then realtor, and then lender, and then like title rep, and then like the Cutco guy that's going in, and then, you know, like the bum off the street right below that, you know. And so it's this weird hierarchy, even though they could learn so much from a loan officer who's built better systems, has a better process, has a better, more dialed in team. We sabotage that relationship in the beginning as loan officers by positioning ourselves here and trying to chase the realtor, or hey, maybe they'll just throw me a bone and then I can earn a spot on their roster and maybe start getting a couple deals. You know, we had Steve Sims, who wrote a book called Blue Fishing. He's doing a lot of speaking in the industry. I was hanging out with him at dinner on 2 nights ago, and we were just talking about this whole chasing versus attracting in the mortgage field. And he had a good point. He said, you know, if you're just chasing people around, you're training them that you're not good enough. Like you're not as good as them, and so you should be the ones buying them dinner or lunch or donuts or whatever. And they don't have a lot to learn from you. And it's doing them a disservice because they've got a lot to learn from you, but you've already positioned yourself here. And so they're not as likely to seek out help versus saying, I'm going to work with the core few. I'm going to work with the critical few that are really aligned with what I want to do. And this is, Steve said that from stage yesterday. He said, if you don't need everyone, you need a few that align with who you are and how you operate, that are integrated in your business and your partners. You know, you're not like getting the table scraps. You guys are strategically aligned in towards a common goal of building your businesses together. And so, you know, stop chasing people and trying to get the scraps, and just identify who you are, who is the best partner for you, and then find those people and position yourselves appropriately so that they're going to be open to working with you and learning the things they need to learn to grow their own business.
So give me one very like tactical, strategic. Like I'm the type of person who, you know, I've been calling these 50 people a week, which is what I demand of people. But really, if I'm being honest with you, Scott, I'm just calling 50 randoms and trying to get the scraps. I really don't have 50 people or 20 people or 10 people I'm trying to call and build a deep relationship with. They're a top producer, I'm a top producer, they're a pro, I'm a pro. I've kind of just been a little scattered. I've been making the calls because Scott tells me to. What would be kind of like your first bit of like actual strategic advice people could walk away with tomorrow of like, yeah, screw this. I'm not going for the scraps. I want to pick 3 builders or 3 top producers or 10 up and comers. And I really want to attract them and have a business partner versus, you know, me being a, you know, situation as a prostitute. What's the first bit of strategic advice you can give that people can execute on?
Sure. So the first thing to do is to change the mindset around it. And um, instead of saying, you know, I need everyone, I need every deal I can get, I just need 1 or 2 from a bunch of people. It's saying there's going to be enough if I do it right. And this is who I'm looking for. And then from there, it's narrowing down the field to, okay, these are the people that I want to connect with. And I would even write down, like, understand the difference between calling and connecting. Because a lot of people, they just make calls because, you know, their coach or their friend or whoever told them at one time, you have to make X number of calls in order to do this. And, you know, I coach a lot of the people that came from other organizations, and they said, I just have to make 40 calls every Monday, or I have to make 60 calls every Monday, whatever their number ends up being that they're calling. And I ask them, you know, how many people have you actually talked to on that list in the last 30 days? How many have sent you a deal in the last 60 days or the last quarter? And what you inevitably find out, well, in most cases, what you find out is that there are people on the list who they've called 10, 20, even 30, 40 times and have never called them back or have never taken the call. And I had a guy who's very successful, another guy from California, and he said, I just finally figured it out. He sent me a text. He said, I'm that guy from high school or college, or he said one of the two, who went out on a date with somebody or wanted to date somebody, and I've texted them 41 times or called them 41 times, and they've never responded, and I'm still thinking that I got a chance, you know. So that's like stalker mode. That's not what we want. And so, let's figure out in advance, if we've called them 40 times and they haven't responded, they probably are not interested. It's not that they just keep forgetting to call you back.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not only wasted time, it's wasted energy, and it's wasted intention and focus. And so if we can say, I'm going to just hit reset on that, and I am going to attract the people that are a fit. And if they're not, I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to try to stalk them if they don't want to date me. I'm going to just let it go. And if it's ever the right time, that's going to come back. But crossing everyone off your list who is obviously not interested, like that's step one, is get rid of all the not interested people. Step two is define who you do want to be in relationship with from a team structure standpoint, are they a listing agent who has two buyer's agents? Are they a agent who's doing both listings and buyers? Are they someone who's doing 2 deals a month or 20 deals a month? Like, what are you built for? What do you specialize in? And then focus on that. Don't try to be everything to everyone. If you're trying to do, okay, I'm the specialist in jumbos and Govy business and all these other things, you're going to be maybe mediocre at most at a lot of them. You're never going to be the best at any of them. And so understanding this is the company that I'm with, and here's what we specialize in, here's what I'm wired for, and this is what I'm able to do really well. This is the team that I've gotten built around me and the strengths that we have. And then create an avatar for this is who the ideal person is that we would want to work with, that we can serve best. Because then your offer is not just I'll buy you coffee and close your loan on time, hopefully, right? Your offer is, hey, listen, there are a lot of people out there that are generalists and they're trying to be everything to everyone. And here we believe that we're going to be uniquely suited for the right partner. And this is our right partner. And that may be you and it may not. And either way, that's okay. I just want to sit down and chat with you and see if maybe it's a fit.
I love that.
So
what I took away from that is, number one, go through and scratch off everybody on the list who you've been calling, and either they're not a match for you or you're not a match for them. I heard something this morning from a coaching call where a gal was saying, she goes, when I generate, I don't have to tolerate. And she's like, my whole reason for joining your coaching and like being forced to go out and meet new people and lead generate is because I know if I'm lead generating, I don't have to tolerate the shit that's in my pipeline, whether that's individual shit deals or shit relationships. So I love the idea of scratching off everybody who's not interested in you or you're not interested. Spending some time writing out that avatar of who do you want to work with, and then thinking about, and Chris is going to kill me, I think the weekly call tracker is going to become a weekly connection tracker, because I think that makes more sense. It's more in alignment with how we're trying to coach people to make the calls. Like, have a conversation. Did you work or play this weekend? Go sit down for coffee and learn something all about the back end of somebody's career. One of the agents I most recently connected with, and this is almost embarrassing to admit, I'm like a nerd about retail. I never worked in retail, so it like fascinates me, like how much square footage per space is allotted to materials and the story of Amazon. And I like geek out on retail stuff. He came from the retail world of buying goods and then selling them to Target and Walmart. We talked for 2 hours at coffee about like, well, what's the price of like a makeup bag, and how does Walmart make the money, and how do you make their money, and then what is the shelf space? And he just got off on talking about that for like an hour and a half. So we connected instead of me being like, let me tell you about VA loans. I'm really good at VA loans. I will get your VA loan closed. I'll pick up your phone call at 9:30 at night on Saturday.
And your dry cleaning on Sunday. And
yeah.
And your kids from school on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. So step one, scratch everybody off. Number two, who do I want? Number three, how do I connect with them? And then number four, like, what am I special at? What am I going to be good at? That's kind of that. If you want to redesign this attraction versus just trying to suck the scraps off the table, that's kind of your first steps.
And continue to refine that. Even as like mortgage companies, I believe that it's really smart to differentiate yourself by specialization and saying, this is what we do really, really well. And that's okay if we're not great at everything, because not everybody is. We're not going to be great at everything, even if we try to focus on everything. So we're just going to focus on being great at what we're built for. And otherwise, we're like this weird Frankenstein thing made up of all these different parts, and it's a little ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about going from like 0 to 1, that Peter Thiel book, where a lot of people in our coaching either have that one really good LOA based on trial and error and training them up over the course of a year or two, and now they're freaking out because I'm telling everybody in our coaching program, like, hey, you're going to lose that LOA eventually. They need to be promoted, or they're going to leave you, or you're going to leave the company. So you need to memorialize everything. You need to document your workflow. So we've got a lot of people that are either going from 0 to 1, they're making their first rock star hire, or they've got one solid person and now they're looking to build on the team, but they're like, oh my God, it took me 2 years to train this person. I'll just do it myself. I trust them. Yeah, I want to do more loans, but God, do I really want to go through this hiring process? So talk us a little bit through like that hiring your first person, or probably more relevant for a lot of people in our coaching program, hiring that second person to really get scale out of your business.
Yeah. So first of all, don't just do it just to do it. It has to fit your long-term plan for your life. Like, you decide, what do I want from my life? Where do I want to be in 5 years? What kind of lifestyle do I want to have? What kind of team do I want to have? What kind of income is going to support that? And then strategically build it forward. If you don't know where you want to go and you're just hiring to hire, very often that's where we get stuck, because we just add someone to the team randomly because we're like, I'm busy right now, I'm just going to add someone to the team. And then it's like, well, now what do we do with that person? I don't have time to train him because I'm busy, and I don't really even know where they fit in the long-term picture. And so they feel underprepared, undervalued, and lost. They don't know what's going on. They don't know their future because you're not clear on their future, because you're not clear on your future. So the first step is to detail and dial in, what does 3 to 5 years look like for you, for your life, for your business. Once you're clear on that, you build a future org chart. This is what's needed for that stage in my life and business. So maybe I need, a front end and a back end LOA, in that stage. Maybe I just need one person, and maybe I don't need to hire at all. Maybe I just want this level of income. I can do it all myself, and I'd rather not have to go through the iterations of learning all of this different stuff. And I'm good with this being kind of my ceiling of achievement. And then I'll just work on getting better at my process, or refining the relationships that I have, so that I don't take the crap deals, so that I'm only working with a handful of realtors or a builder account or something. And I'm good with that. And I don't mind not being able to take off for 2 weeks and have somebody handle the business, or I'm fine with that and being by myself and saying, hey, this is just we're going to take a hit for a bit, and my partners are okay. Or do I want to build to scale? And neither one's right in general. They're just right for you. It's right for your lifestyle. It's right for your income level. It's right for your contribution level. And so if you decide what you want, you build that future org chart, and the future org chart needs to contain some specific things. You don't build it with people in mind. You build it with the process and the organization in mind. So you don't put Amber over here and Michael over there. You have your org chart, and you say, for this organization, we're going to need this front end LOA over here, and that person has a behavioral profile of this. Are they fast? Are they slow? Are they detail oriented? Are they people oriented? So understanding how behaviorally people are wired is going to help you find the right person, and then understand how to help properly train and integrate them into your business. So you want to know, who are they? You want to know, what is the job description for that role? So again, the different tiers of that, we have the job description for the role. We have what we call the missing persons report of who is that person who we're looking for, that behaviorally and culturally fits with both the job description and with our team. And then lastly, we look for values and team match. Is this someone who's going to fit with the rest of the organization? You could have a rock star front end LOA and a rock star back end LOA, and if they just got a nasty divorce and hate each other, or one's a 49ers fan and one's a Seahawks fan, or if there's division, if there's discord within that group, you can have mutually exclusively great people that don't fit and create a great organization. So it's understanding the nuances of the culture is that last piece. And then we also want to have standards for how do they know they're winning in the role. So standards and metrics that are specific for how do they know they're winning, and how do you know they're winning, so you can coach to those things. If it's just do a good job with files, it's too random. It's too open-ended to tell people and have them know I'm winning at this role. People want to win, especially talent. Non-talent just wants to hide and get by and keep their job. And that's not who you want on your team. They're really good at doing that when there's no standards for the role. They're just like, I'm doing my best, and then they'll pass the buck. Oh, if you would just send me this stuff on time, I could do that. Or if this person would have just trained me better, I could do that. So the clear standards and expectations for the role really help you to have clear metrics that they can evaluate and you can evaluate together for how they're doing in the job.
Yeah. I was talking to Glenn. I love you to death, man. You're my favorite punching bag sometimes on the coaching calls because he just takes everything in stride. But Glenn and I were having a conversation about how a marketing person that he had brought in maybe wasn't quite fitting the bill for what they wanted. Were they going to train her up? Were they going to train her out? Whatnot? And one of the things that we talked about with him a couple of coaching calls ago is like, hey, you've got to have some idea of what success looks like for this marketing person. So if you say, hey, we got a marketing person, I want you to market me. Well, that's not really giving them a chance to win. But if you say, hey, I need to step on stage and do this 4-hour continuing education. I want to put no more than 4.5 hours of work into this. 4 hours on stage, half an hour to spot check your work over the next 2 months. And what you need to do is you need to market it. You need to get 50 realtors to confirm it. You got to get the flyer made. You got to clear the CE credits with the state. You got to order the food. You got to get the venue. Okay, cool. Well, now she has she has an action plan. You and I are both ex-military guys. Like, she knows what the objective is. And now it's just very clear. Either the place gets booked, the food is delivered, you give the CE presentation and there's 50 realtors there, or it doesn't happen. And that's just not the right fit to do your, live event marketing. But it's up to us as leaders. And this is the hard part for loan officers where the rubber meets the road. We actually have to sit down and do this org chart, write that missing person description so that we know what we're looking for. And then write, what a culture fit would be for me. One of the challenges I have, it's an ongoing challenge with Chris. He's sitting right here. I know it. He knows it. I'm a morning person. He's a night person. So it's like he gets most creative towards the tail end of the day and will work late into the evening. I'm out by 4 o'clock and then like frustrated the next morning when like we can't check in at 6 a.m. Well, at 6 a.m., like he's worthless. And at 5 p.m., I'm worthless. So it's like, that's just, that's a culture fit that we have to work through and kind of find a way to manage that. But if you're not writing that stuff down, you're just going to be frustrated when you hire somebody. The one thing I would encourage to everybody is I like what Isaac said a lot about, hey, if you're comfortable with where you are and you're happy, then, live that happiness and just keep refining your systems. I would warn everybody, if you're happy at your current level of production right now, as we're filming this in February of 2020, the market is making you look better than you are. Rates are low, purchases are up, the snow is thawing throughout America faster and earlier than it normally does. So the market is on fire for the Pacific Northwest, or the Pacific Northwest and the Eastern Seaboard. Like, the market is making everybody, myself included, look better than we are. So if you're really comfortable right now, your baseline of income, you actually have some growth to do so that when the market shifts, you're not upset with your current level of production. That's all I would say on that. Like, don't be comfortable right now with where you're at if you're comfortable, if that makes sense. Cool. Hey, I want to move on to managing that team. So we talked a little bit about having a little bit for the vision yourself, delegate, building that empire, trying to hire those people. Now I struggle with this. Glenn, I'll give you credit. You're getting better at this. Jay's getting better at this. Mandy's getting better at this. I'm looking at a lot of people that are on the call live right now. It's like we all have this micromanagement control issue, Isaac. It's like, well, if that little thing doesn't get filled out correctly, that's where the loan goes wrong, because we've all had it. We've all had the smallest little thing blow up a deal, blow up a relationship, turn what could have been an approved loan into a declined loan. So I've taken a long time to try to get comfortable with the idea is if somebody can do it 80% as good as me for 50% of the money, then that's a win. But there's a lot of people, and I still struggle with this, like doing a task in the mortgage industry 80% as well as I could be the difference between a live deal and a dead deal. So how do you recommend to people, one, to let it go and have a good mindset about delegating, And then two, like either spot check, delegate, inspect. Like what's your tip for managing people when it is true? I will side on the behalf of the loan officer here that every little small thing could potentially kill a deal. I just threw a lot on you, so go whatever direction you want with that.
So part of it is about, imagine you got kids playing in the front yard, your kids, or kids you care about, and there's a busy street out front. If you have no fence, you're going to be hyper vigilant all the time. Look, don't go there. If there's a really solid fence, if there's a brick wall there that's 10 feet tall and there's no way your 3-year-old is going to get over the fence and into the road, you're a lot more chill. You don't have to worry so much about the what if scenarios because your boundaries are set and they're non-negotiable. So the better your boundaries are, the more people understand this is where you can play, this is where you can't, this is what needs to happen, this is what's not okay. The more you can relax a little bit into the process and let go of the things that aren't the deal killers. So if you can identify, like, these are the steps in the process where it's really important. And you know what, if you're this person on the team, there's somebody doing pre-underwriting, or there's somebody who's going to catch it before it goes here, and that's okay. Like, we've got a little bit more latitude there, so we're going to put our newer people in there. We're going to make sure these things are dialed in there so it doesn't bog down the process, but the little details are more important here. So we build fences around the job description so people know. If there's no fences and they're just like, anything I do, Scott might come in and punch me in the throat tomorrow. Like, I have no idea what's inbounds, what's out of bounds, what's going to be okay. They're operating from a place of fear, and they're going to play small, and they're probably going to make way more mistakes because they're worried about it than if they were to just be able to play all out. But you got to know where the sidelines are, and you got to know where the end zone is. So let's say if you're playing football and you're wide receiver and you go up for a catch and you catch the ball, right up the middle, and you're fully extended and you get popped, sandwiched between, two linebackers, or, a safety comes and cleans your clock. The next time you go up, you're going to play small. You're going to go like this, and you're going to miss the ball. It's going to get intercepted. And so when people play small, there's a whole bunch of negative things that happen. And culturally, it's a culture killer. Because people, it's a fear-based environment. You can kind of almost feel that feeling, versus people that are free because they know where the boundaries are. Like, hey, within these boundaries, here are the rules. Outside of that, we're okay. Like, nothing's going to mess up the deal that you mess up over here. There's the checklist of things that we need to make sure are dialed at this stage in the process. So I don't remember everything that you said during your question, but that addresses the where do we put the boundaries, are teaching people that, hey, we're going to make mistakes, and then understanding that a mistake is not a bad thing. It's how we handle it that determines whether there's value or not. And so when people make mistakes, one of the first things that I train for people that are hiring is saying, when people come into your organization, the first conversation, or one of the first conversations you need to have is, here's how we handle mess ups. When people make a mistake or mess up, you got to let them know you're going to make mistakes. If they feel like they're never going to make a mistake and they're always playing super small, you're going to have someone who's not going to work in the role. But just telling them mistakes are going to happen, and here's how we handle that. Step one is we're going to own it immediately. If we have a fear-based culture, the natural inclination is for people to want to hide it, not own it. They're just hoping it'll go away or not get noticed, or that they can fix it before anybody catches on. And so if we help them say, number one is to own it. Hey, I made a mistake. Now we can deal with it. So the first step is to own it right away. Second step is to communicate it, whether that's to communicate it to Scott, communicate it to whoever your supervisor is, communicate it to someone who, can help you work through that process. So we own it, we communicate it. The next step is we mitigate it, or we deal with it. Like, okay, what are our options? What can we do here? We forgot to, we told somebody we're going to take this file and have it to here by this time, and now the courier, service is shut down. Well, can you drive it over there? Can I, can I call the person real quick and see if they can pick it up on their way home? Or like, what can we do with this scenario right now to minimize or mitigate any of the negative effects? And then the last two-step part is that we learn from it. So we institutionalize, we document the institutional learning of this thing. We say, okay, all right, let's look back. It's an after-action review. This is what happened. Here's what we did. Here's what we learned. And then we memorialize that so that the organization or the process gets better. So with every mistake, we can either, punch people in the throat, and now everybody's afraid, but the process doesn't change and the organization's not any better. In fact, it's probably culturally worse. Or we can take that institutional knowledge and we can memorialize it and document it and say, okay, now we have like a Q&A ops program, or we have somewhere we can go to say, what happened last time this happened? What did we learn? What decisions did we make, and where can we learn from that thing? And sometimes it's just, there's probably a step in the process that we need to add so that that doesn't happen again. And then our process is better. So there can be value in the mistakes. And if people understand that up front, if you hire the right people and they're talented, they're still not going to want to make mistakes, but it takes the fear out of it and it infuses learning instead, so that the mistakes are worth something for the organization.
Okay. So let's solve my personal problem. Let's say I've been the throat puncher for a while. It was just like, beatings will continue until morale improves. And I'm inspired by what you're saying. Our mutual friend Chandler Bolt, he always tells his team, fail often, fail fast, and fail forward. Like, let's learn from it. But let's say you have been the ex-drill sergeant type, which is more my personality type, where it's like, hey, why didn't this get in the mail? Why didn't this get done? It's on the checklist. You had the email. Why didn't it get done? Like, what can I do better? What can you do better? Why didn't it happen? And, I kind of lose my shit, which is why I've got about a 3-year lifespan with good team members. And I'm trying to fix that because I want to get better. So if I have a little bit in my organization with our, I'll call it my legacy team members, not the 2 people that I've most recently hired who I'm doing a better job of executing in the manner that you're saying, but with my 2 legacy team members who I've got a little bit of that, like, punched them in the throat. They know I care about them, but they also know I can be a jerk. How do we start to reset that culture of like, okay, man, here's what we're doing. We're in this together. We've got the checklist. We've got our systems. What's the culture reset if you've been a little bit of a throat puncher?
Well, there has to be a moment, like clear line in the sand, a moment where you can't just like start acting differently because they're already conditioned to a different way of being. There has to be a moment where you define it and say, listen, I have been a throat puncher, and I realize that is not the optimal way to do this. And, I apologize for any damage that's done. I am committed to doing it differently going forward. And here's why. And so we have that we're planting a flag, we're drawing a line in the sand moment, and we're resetting the stage for what's next. And we're telling them why that's important. So kind of going through the same things that we just talked about. Here's why it's not an optimal system. Here's what we want to move into, and here's how that looks. And then step 2 is understand that people still are going to have a little bit of PSTD from being punched in the throat.
Right.
So when they fail to acknowledge right away that they'd made a mistake, or when they failed to do something like that, have a little bit of grace, because you're the one that, kept beating them, that made them flinch whenever you go to hug them, right? So understand that, have some grace with it. Don't be like, why the F are you flinching, man? I'm just trying to hug you. When for the last 5 times you've gone like this, they got punched in the nose. So have a little bit of grace with them. Understand it takes time to unwind some of those things and reset the culture from that standpoint, and honor and praise the wins, and say, hey, this was such a great learning. I want to just take a minute for our team and thank you guys for the way that you handled this. Here was the situation, and here was here's what happened. Steve immediately owned it and raised his hand. We talked about it, or maybe it was my mistake. You got to model it too. That's the other thing, is you have to model it and say, hey, guys, I messed up. Here's what happened. Let's talk about what we can do to fix that. And then what can we learn from this? The biggest overall change, I think, is the redefining what the feeling is in the team. When you said what happened, the team is going to read so much into that based on how it was said and what it meant before. What it meant before was, Scott's going to lose his shit and we're in trouble, right? Cover your throats. So changing that to, okay, I'm going to come from curiosity and just say what happened. And when I say what happened, I don't want you guys to cover your throats. When I say what happened, I really mean, let's look at what happened, right? It's an analysis. It's a questioning process versus an accusatory process, right? I really am seeking the information so that we can understand the situation, so that we can make this team better.
I love that, man. I love that. Look, I know you got to get back to your seminar here, and you're running a whole class in like 15 minutes, so I don't want to keep you too long. But I think our coaching clients are going to be seeing a lot more of you and of Alex, and we're going to be doing some joint live events together. What's a parting thought you want to leave everybody for success or for building a team?
Well, it's funny you said success. I really think that, and one of the books that we're writing is called Redefining Success. I think especially in the mortgage industry and real estate industries, because it's an aggressive sales industry and there's a lot of awards and levels and coaching programs and things like that. We get preconditioned to having someone else tell us what success looks like. And so we just operate as if that's true. And we don't fully step back for a minute and say, what does success look like for me? And what are the implications of that? So it's not just about a number. It's never about a number. It's what does the number mean? Why is that important? How does it work with the rest of my life? And so with redefining success, it can just stepping back and taking a minute to benchmark that and say, this is the life I want to live, understanding that based on what your faith is, maybe we get one shot at this thing. It's not like we get to do it over and over again necessarily. But if I got one shot at this, I want to make every day a day that's worth giving up one day of my life for. And that's not, if that's just tied to money, then I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying maybe you need to think about what are the other things that matter to you? What are the other things that are important? And what does the money mean? What's the difference that's going to happen there? So really redefining success and saying, I'm going to create a map for my life. This is what matters in my life, in my world, and pursuing and leaning into those things and building the team to support that. Not just saying I need a bigger team because Scott's got a bigger team or this guy's got a bigger team or I'm not number one in my company or my region or whatever. Who cares? You're number one in some area. That person probably is, based on a lot of the top people that I've met, if they haven't done this process, they would probably trade places with you in a second because they're on like their third marriage. Their kids hate them. They have had 2 heart attacks now, and their money can't buy, happiness and family and friendships. Everybody thinks they're a total jerk, and they're just they're just written off happiness in life, and they're just chasing more money. So they would trade places with someone that's making a third or half or a quarter as much money that has their health and their family and intimacy in their marriage and presence with their kids when they're playing together, all of those things. They would give all of that money that they're making in most cases just to replace what they lost by chasing the dollars. So I'm not saying money is bad, and I'm not saying that making a lot of money is bad. I'm saying that making money should be secondary to what are your other goals in life and how do you want to be known? How do you want your life to be lived? So there you go.
That's awesome, man. That's a great way to end. So you guys can find Isaac on Facebook. I know he's a little bit active there. And then his email, I'll send it out today with the recap of the call, Isaac at Kaizen Coaching. But I will tell you for sure, you're going to be seeing a lot more of Isaac and his team in Consolidated Coaching. I really appreciate it, man, taking time out of your busy day. And we'll talk more about some future collaborations.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you. Thanks for everyone who joined us today.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.